What is going on, guys? It is now time, and I've been waiting so long to make this video. It's time to talk about the Tigers playoffs. We started with Oakland tonight at 9 o'clock. It's currently 3, watching the Red Sox game. Been kind of a boring day, whatever. And it's been kind of a boring week, man, not having any Tigers baseball to watch, to be honest with you. And I've been really, really excited to start, preparing for this video and everything else, and to actually start talking about this because Tigers and A's, man, they've been familiar teams with one another. They faced each other a lot in the last 6 years. '06, last year, I know it's going to be this year. I mean, that's a lot of times to play one team in the course of 6 years. So let's talk about how the season ended real quick. I know there was a lot of people that they think the Tigers left off on the season kind of a sour note, but who cares about Henderson Alvarez no hitting the Tigers? I mean, they had their B squad lineup out there the entire time. Think about this. In that final series in Miami, the Tigers did not have their starting 9 that they're going to be putting out there tonight one time in that entire series, especially game 3. I mean, you had Prince Fielder for an at-bat, no Miggy, no V-Mart, no Hunter, no Infante. It's going to be a very different looking team come tonight. You're going to have everyone out there. Everyone's rested. Miguel Cabrera's a little knocked up, but Victor Martinez is well rested. Torrey Hunter's well rested. Everyone's good to go. Hopefully Iglesias is well rested and his hand feels a little bit better. But let's get down to it. I thought I would do something new. I think I'm going to start this position by position breakdown. I wrote an article about this on the Majors Detroit, position by position breakdown, and I want to do it on here as well. So let's take a look at each spot, and I'm going to tell you who I feel has the advantage. So far this year, the Tigers and A's for catching position. Avila has done very, very well in the second half. He's hit over 300. He's posted 6 home runs, belted out over 20-some RBIs. I mean, that is, yes, it's not the best for production, but considering that he hit a measly 188 in the second or in the first half of the year, and to even get it up to 300 in the second half it's outstanding. I mean, his OBP was great. He slugged over 500. I mean, what else can you do, to prove that you're coming out of it? This year, the A's have had 3 different catchers behind the dish. We had Derek Norris, Stephen Vogt. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Kurt Suzuki came back. Those 3 together put up a collective slash of 267, 327, and 452 with 15 home runs and 56 RBIs. Avila nearly had the same amount of production with a down first half of the year. And he plays better defense than any 3 of those guys. So, advantage is the Tigers. Now, you're not going to get much offense out of either catcher, the 3 catchers combined, or Avila. But I'm still giving the Tigers the advantage because I feel Avila is a better defensive catcher, and with the second half and being hot, I think that's why they get the advantage. First base, we got Prince Fielder up against Brandon Moss. Fielder really kicked it on in September. He struggled a lot mightily mid-season. I mean, Fielder was really, really bad. I mean, he finished, I think, one of his career lows in home runs this year. Only 25 homers, but he was still top 5 in the AL in RBIs. He posted an OPS of nearly 940 in the month of September while hitting 337 for home runs. And it was still an overall good year. I mean, he brought his average up. He finished in the mid-280s, and it's a respectable year. Good OBP. His strikeouts were up quite a bit from last year, but still overall a great year. Brandon Moss, though, not a bad year either. 256, 337, 552 slash line, 30 homers and 80 RBIs. So he had a little bit more power than Fielder did this year, but Fielder had a bit more production, better OBP and OPS, and they slugged pretty close to the same. So Moss did not have a bad year whatsoever, but Fielder, still finished top 5 in RBIs. Still finished a bit better average, bit better OBP, bit better OPS. So I'm going to give the advantage to Fielder just because him and Cabrera, best before in baseball, and he's a big reason for that. So you can't knock what Moss did, but I still think Fielder's got the advantage. Second base, it's Eric Sogard and Omar Infante. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, Sogard, he's not a great hitter. He got on base at a 330 or 322 clip. Decent production for a guy. I guess they platoon him a little bit there. So even though Sogard has some pretty nice glasses, because I think that's pretty cool. I'm still saying Infante is a better second baseman than him, and the Tigers got the advantage there. I mean, imagine if Colby Rasmus didn't take out Omar Infante, what his numbers would have been. I mean, he hit over 350-some RBIs, I think 11 or 12 home runs. I mean, you cannot complain of what he's done, and he's just been consistent all throughout the year. Shortstop, we got Iglesias and Jed Lowry. You cannot complain at what Jed Lowry has brought to the A's again, having another really solid year. The Tigers have had two different guys play shortstop for him this year. Johnny Peralta, he played until August 4th when he got suspended. And then Jose Iglesias has stepped in and played amazing defense. I mean, we have not saw a defender wearing a Detroit Tigers uniform better than Iglesias at shortstop than Alan Trammell back in the late 90s, mid-90s when he finally hung up the cleats for good. I mean, This kid makes plays that you're just going, your jaw drops. You're like, did I see that right? Is this even possible? I mean, how is this kid, all of 23 years old, he steps on that field with a little bit of swagger, looks at a little bit of cockiness to the strut, but it's all good because he backs it up with the glove. Now, sure, his bat is not quite there yet, okay? But he's still a great defender, and whatever he does give you with the bat is just a bonus, in my opinion. But Lowry, man, another solid year. Hit 290, 15 home runs, 75 RBIs. It's Jed Lowry over Iglesias. I mean, you have to say it. I mean, I'm not being biased here. It's Jed Lowry over Iglesias. Third base, Miggy over Jason Donaldson. Now, Miggy hasn't been that great. He slugged .333 since the end of August. So, that injury's really been bothering him. And that's going to be a video for another time about Miggy potentially leaving third base in the near future because it's hurting his body. That's another video for another time. But looking at the stats through the peripherals, what Donaldson has put up this year, I mean, he's been absolutely outstanding. He's hit on the year, let me pull up his numbers. He hit 301, 384, 499 slash, 883 OPS, 24 homers, 93 RBIs. I mean, that's great. But think about this. Miguel Cabrera had what Donaldson had at the All-Star break. I mean, he has trumped his Triple Crown year, won his third straight batting title. There's not a better hitter on earth than Miguel Cabrera. Now, Donaldson, way better defender than Miggy. So you got to add that factor in there. But with the stick and who's going to have more advantage, who do you want to face more in a big situation? Miguel Cabrera or Donaldson? And I guarantee you every time those two are backing up one another, they would be walking Cabrera to get to Donaldson. That's all I'm saying. So the advantage, definitely Tigers on that one. And then you go in the outfield as a trio. Tigers got Peralta, Hunter, and Jackson in the outfield. As a collective whole, as a collective unit, they hit 293. They drove in 188 runs, even though Peralta hit 54 of those runs in his RBIs at the shortstop position. He only notched 1 RBI as a left fielder so far. The only real question with the Tigers outfield, because it's a very productive outfield. I mean, Jackson and Hunter each were driven in almost 200 times each. On top of Johnny Peralta now out there, which is just going to make it even more impressive. The only thing is how's Peralta going to be in the outfield? The Oakland A's outfield, it's not too shabby. I mean, you got Coco Crisp out there, Cespedes, Josh Reddick. Now, Cespedes and Josh Reddick each took a pretty big step back this year. Considering last year Cespedes, he hit 292. This year he only hit 240, but I mean, he did have 26 homers and 80 RBIs, but Reddick really fell off. But they're all a bunch of strikeout-prone guys, and even though Coco Crisp, you got to respect his power at the top of the order now because he really shown this year that he can drive the ball to the ballpark real quick. And, I mean, he burned us in the start of the ALDS last year. I remember against Justin Verlander. So, I think the Tigers got the advantage in that as well. You got 3 guys, like I said, as a collective unit, drove in 188 runs between Jackson and Torrey Hunter. Those two each got driven in almost 200 times, so it's pretty good speed. On top of Hunter and Jackson are pretty good defenders, even though Hunter really isn't what he used to be. So I think the advantage Tigers, just because of how much Reddick, Cespedes, and Crisp strike out, even though they all got good power, you got to be careful with them. Starting pitching. Look at them as a whole right now. The A's ranked 7th in ERA, 8th quality starts, 3rd in WHIP, and 4th in batting average. The Tigers rank 9th in ERA, 1st in quality starts, 9th in WHIP, and 8th in batting average. Now, mind you, this is with bullpen ERA included. So the Tigers got lower. They would have a lower ERA if it was just staff ERA, but they're only 1 behind the A's. because they're ninth or two, and the A's are seventh in ERA. No one's had more quality starts than the Tigers this year. The A's are third in WHIP. The Tigers are ninth. So, like I said, this is bullpen ERA, so you got to think about this with the bullpen in there. Tigers are eighth in batting average, and A's are fourth in batting average. But if you look at it like this, the Tigers starting five. Verlander had a 3.46 ERA. Scherzer had a 2.90 ERA. Fister had a 3.67 ERA. Anibal Sanchez posted the lowest ERA in the AL at 2.57, and then Porcello had a 4.32 ERA. And then if you look at the A's pitching staff, 3.83 from AJ Griffin, which is Fister posted a low ERA. Parker posted a 3.97 ERA. Verlander posted a lower ERA than that. Colon was number 2 to Sanchez in ERA. And then Tommy Malone was 4.14, and then Dan Straley was 3.96. So the Tigers had more wins as a pitching staff, lower ERA as a pitching staff, more strikeouts as a pitching staff, and I think a tad bit of a lower WHIP. So if you look at that from that, I mean, the Tigers got the strongest pitching staff coming in to the postseason as a collective team. Maybe the Dodgers are number 2, I think, to me. But you look at our starting 4, it's hard to find a deeper and better starting 4 than that. I mean, especially considering Verlander had a 2.67 ERA in his last 5 starts. I mean, he's really started to bring it on, and that strikeout has jumped up. So advantage Tigers. Bullpen, I'm not even going to get into this. A's bullpen easily trumps anything the Tigers can throw out there. I mean, we got a couple good arms. We got Smiley, Benoit, Veras. Rondon isn't available in the ALDS. But we're not even close to having a better bullpen than the A's. We got to hope our bullpen holds the lead slates like it did last year in the playoffs. So what do I think? Who's going to win it? I think the Tigers taking 4. I think with the Tigers offense, that was one of the best offenses in baseball. I think it was number 2 just behind the Red Sox in almost every statistic besides a couple. They can score runs with anyone. It's just going into slumps is what you got to be scared of with this offense, because we've seen it before in the middle of the season. They kind of get into lulls, and they don't put up runs as consistently as they should. But Tigers at 4, I'm not changing my mind. Our staff is better. Our staff is better than the A's. Our offense is better than the A's. We play good defense up the middle. Just as a collective team, I think we're a better team than the A's. And I think we take it at 4 and we move on to the ALCS. I don't think this is going to be that hard of a series. I think the A's are going to play us tough. I mean, they played us tough this year. They took the season series from us by one game, and that was about it. But I still think the Tigers are going to take this at 4. I really do. I'm really confident in this team this year. I wasn't even this confident in that team last year, but I'm very, very confident that the Tigers are going to take this in 4 and they're going to move on. Because I think this is our team. I think this is our year. I really, really do. With this collection of talent we have, with the addition of Victor all year, and now Hunter, and it being as strong defensively as we are this year as compared to last year, I think this is the team. I think we're going to be just fine in the playoffs this year, and I think this is our year to do it. I have never thought that about the Tigers until this year. Tigers in 4.